Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc., the show where the writer is fresh off the presses, but the ink is not dry. The press box is closed, but the mic is just starting to sizzle with Lance's latest article about the Flyers facing off against COVID and with new protocols. Just when you thought the laptop was closed, Lance drops 2 more articles about aging like fine wine and a call to action. So buckle up, here we go.
Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Inc. I'm your host, Lance Green. Sorry for the delay. We had a bit of a mishap with Steele being on the IR, but we're back.
Thank you. I'm your co-host, Steele Flyers, and boy, I tell you, it is great to be back. Thank you, my brother, for holding the fort down here while I've been on the IR here a little bit. We had a little ankle surgery to take care of a broken ankle, so we're still a little bit on the mend, but we're making it happen, man. I couldn't stay away too long, man. We have to. Your articles are starting to pile up, man. Come on.
They are.
So we had to get back and get you rolling here, and man, if we got a good one here for you today, folks. It's called Flyers Face Off versus COVID, and man. A lot of things have been going on. Lance has been seriously busy, posting article after article since I've been on the IR. So we're gonna try to cover as many articles as we can on this show. So let's just jump right into it. All right.
All right.
First of all, let's just say a huge thank you to the FlyersNittyGritty.com group and Jamey Baskow for helping us to make Bleacher Reports. Every time we post our show, we make Bleacher Reports. So a big thank you and a big salute out to FlyersNittyGritty.com and Jamey Baskow. Also, I'd like to make an announcement as well, too. We are now going to have a full-time sponsor. CCC Resorts is going to be one of our full-time sponsors that we're going to introduce, and we'll be introducing that commercial here for you during the show today. So be looking forward to that. A big thank you to them. They take care of great pet grooming needs. They have an indoor and an outdoor saltwater pool for your pets. They do trainings there. They do rehabs there for your pets. They also do daycare and boarding and all kinds of great things like that. So a big, huge thank you to www.cccresorts.com for being the sponsor to Steel Flyers All Sports Network and the Hockey Writers Inc. So a big thank you to them. All right, my man, I'm ready. Are you on? You got your pads all going, your stick ready?
Yeah.
Right? You got it. All right, here we go, baby. Article number 1, posted to FlyersNittyGritty.com. And boy, I'll tell you what, this is the whole reason why the show is called what this is. And it's an awesome piece from our guardian of the blue paint about the Flyers facing off against COVID, and some new protocols have been put into place, announced by the NHL as well, too. And we're going to get into some of that. And there are so many questions about this and how the Flyers are handling this and how the COVID's been running through the team and things like that. And I think with this article, you addressed it very poignantly. You know what I mean, as far as that's concerned. And I think one of the things that maybe the NHL wasn't necessarily counting on was the fact that it was going to be as rampant as it is through the teams.
Most definitely.
With as many players getting affected by this, you know what I mean? And I think from what we last saw, the team is going to be able to practice today, right?
I heard that. Yes, they did announce that. They should be on the ice.
Okay. All right. What do you look? I want to give you the opportunity to tell me what you said in your article regarding this, and this is why I wanted to get into this, because I think this is very important, and this is a very major topic as far as what's going on, not just in the world right now, but with sports and with NHL teams. It went through the NFL, it's gone through NBA, that the whole 9 yards. It's been through all the major leagues, and here it is now affecting the NHL. So, what do you think the new rules are going to do with the new protocols that the NHL has put into place? How do you think that's going to affect the Flyers moving forward?
I don't know how it'll specifically affect the Flyers, but hopefully it helps. Um, they were small in nature, and that's kind of stuff they should have been doing on their own anyway. But it now forces their hand to do so, kind of limiting the outlet of just going from to and from the rinks, either practice or game, not to be out partying as such. Some teams like the Washington Capitals were and got busted for paying major fines and stuff, being out to the clubs with no mask on.
Right. And players
It's
being
just
out for a number of games.
yeah, and because of that, yes.
Yeah.
So it's just carelessness. It's a different world out there, and all of us have been dealing with this for well over a year now, and should be used to grabbing a mask before heading out the door and not putting ourselves in the same situations where we once did. Of course, we want to be out with friends and all that, but it has to be limited at this time. And then being $1 million athletes being paid a lot of money to play a sport, they need to take it upon themselves to take these little um, things to help along and keep them healthy so that they can remain on the ice. They have a contract with the team to do that. You know, obviously in other sports, there's amendments and contracts and different stuff like that and clauses that uh, makes them sometimes not be able to own motorcycles or different stuff like that that can
Oh
prevent
yeah.
them to be in different
Oh yeah.
aspects of being putting themselves at risk, and it's just protecting their assets. The league as well as the teams are trying to do to make it a better game in a sense, and not have to use that whole taxi squad lineup in every game because they have so many players out.
Okay, so that's one of the things that you addressed in the article was a taxi squad, and I'm glad you said that too, because this is something that I have a big question about as well too. If you have a taxi squad, which the NHL put in place at the beginning of the year, they allowed for between 4 and 6 players. You have to have at least one goalie and one or two defensemen and whatever. All right.
Yeah.
So all teams have that now. Okay. So and the only thing I can go on is examples that have already taken place throughout the league. Okay. And so you've already mentioned the one example, which was Washington, where they had 4 players that went out and broke protocol in the whole 9 yards. And they missed a total of, well, there was 4 games missed initially, and then there was more games that have been missed because of that, because
Right.
one of the or two of the players actually did test positive for COVID and or whatever, which right there makes the point right there, because they did then test positive for COVID. Okay. So now you have 4 players out. Now, did Washington shut down their facilities or anything like that? Did they keep playing? Did the team put the taxi squad players on the ice and keep playing? Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Washington did not miss a single game. Okay. The team did not miss a single game.
Right.
So that was one instance where the taxi squad was put into place and was able to help Washington. Okay. So if that's how they're going to do that, then why is it that a team will get 2 or 3 or 4 players that get on the list and test positive, and now suddenly they shut down the whole facility?
Yeah, I mean it's tough, but as of right now, the Flyers, I mean, they have Oscar Lindblom, Scott Laughton, Claude Giroux, Jake Voracek, Morgan Frost, Justin Braun,
Oh
Travis
yeah,
Sanheim, and Shane
Claude Giroux.
Gostisbehere previously out due to COVID.
Yeah,
So it becomes at a point, even the taxi squad, if every single player was used,
obviously.
what good are they going to be? And another thing, like I said in my article, was at what point are they doing their team, and as long as others, a disservice when these players are out on the ice and more could be popping up positive given the incubation period of this virus? of being 2 or 3 days. So you may think you have everybody safe and not, carrying the virus in a sense, but then that incubation period pops up and then suddenly 5 more players are positive. So
Yeah.
it's a rock and
No,
a
I mean,
hard place for sure.
yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm at about it too. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, it worked out really great for this team, but it didn't really work out all that great for this other team. Look, I'm not going to sit there and try to say you have to replace 17 players like New Jersey did, and they had to shut down their facility, or like with Dallas, what happened with Dallas, they had to shut down their facility, or Colorado, or Minnesota, or Buffalo, where they've had double-digit number of players, coaches test positive. Okay, I get it. All right. So those are things that they should have put in place, contingency plans to put in place. And if that's the case, then, other teams' schedules could be rearranged. You know what I mean? Instead of making other teams skip other games, they can just move ahead their games. You know what I mean? To a certain extent. I mean, look, I know it's a moving target. And there's no right or wrong answer to any of this. You know what I mean? The thing of it is this. We're never going to get to a zero number with COVID. And COVID is never going to go away. So the league and society and everybody has to come to this happy medium at some point. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just my opinion. You know what I mean? You talk about this and you address this in the article. You can't really force somebody to take a vaccine or a shot.
No.
And you can't really make these players essential. I mean, you really, as much as we would love to,
right,
you really can't, because in the grand scheme of all this, they're really not.
No, not at all. And that's the thing. It's the biggest thing here. I don't want to give my opinion either way, like I didn't in the article. I've simply presented both sides to every argument that's going on right now, because in a sense, even the experts aren't experts in this COVID still to this day.
And we don't know.
They don't know. It's constantly changing.
Yep.
And, I don't know. I don't know what to say to this and what the answer is moving forward, but I believe that we need to move forward in a sense. So, and that is the only thing that is truly evident that we need to do, just as a society in general, as well as sports. It plays a part in that. I think a lot of people rely on sports as a sense of normalcy to their lives, everyday lives. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what it will be.
It's a catch-22 thing, because it's really great for the morale of the country and of everybody to have sports and hockey. And that was the whole push to get it back to begin with. Mm-hmm. They shut everything down because it was in everybody's best safety and interest to do so.
Right.
Okay. And so, now they're starting to potentially try to get people in the stands and stuff. You know what I mean? And so it's like, you're going to have to come. You're going to have to come to some kind of something somewhere where there's going to have to be a happy medium is going to have to be reached. Okay. And that's why I wanted to say those things, because this article is it just gives you the facts. It gives you the facts on both sides. Okay. This is what could happen, and this is what it could happen, whatever. And this is why I like you, Lance, as a writer. Okay. And this is why I love the articles that you do, man, because you present the facts. Okay. Just the facts, baby. That's it. And that's all I want. I want the facts. Okay. So that being said, okay, do you think these new protocols that the NHL announced are going to be able to help to allow the league and teams to move forward?
I think it will help. I don't think it's a all-out fix for sure, but it should help slightly. And I think, like I said, teams just need to do a better job of taking that into their own hands without the league having to hold their hand and tell them what to do. Um, you know, they're obviously trying to do all that they can do, but I think that the biggest thing here is that
These are grown
they've
men.
been lucky so far. They've been
Yep.
lucky in the
Yep.
fact that nobody has seriously got ill from this. They are physical, they are active in each other's face. And if they do contract this virus, they are in probably some of the best shapes of their lives. And anybody from me or you, a lot better shape than us. So they are able to take this virus so far and brush it off in a sense. But there are people out there that are physically dominant and healthy that have just gotten beaten
Yep.
down by this virus
Yep.
as well. So that is a thing of it's been okay for now in all the league sports because nobody has had to be vented. Nobody has had to be hospitalized, to my knowledge, um, for any length of time in the leagues. But
Exactly.
what
Great
if?
point.
But what
Great
if?
point.
And that's
Exactly. That's why the Big Ten delayed their start of their football season,
Mhm,
because they didn't have enough scientific evidence to prove
right.
that the long lasting effects of having COVID to an athlete, to their heart, to their lungs, they didn't want to have the athlete, down the road come back to them and say, well, hey, man, because you let me play in this COVID infested, league, and I got COVID, now I'm going to have to sue you now because I'm not going to live those extra years that I could have, or whatever the lasting effects
Right.
are. We're not doctors. I'm not a doctor. I don't. But that's why the Big Ten didn't start off initially, was because they didn't have enough information to back up why that liability.
Right.
Okay, that we're so talking about.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's the thing too. You Nobody really knows the answers, but a lot of
Exactly.
people just brush this article. Some people just brush this article off and said, "Oh, they can't do that. They can't make them." But guys, it is being talked about, and that's the scary part. It is being talked about a possibility of what happens or what they could expect if they forced the vaccinations on these players. Nobody should have to be forced, in my mind. But if I had to speculate here on what will happen, uh, as I said in my article, I think it comes with a few conditions. I don't think that the players will be forced, in a sense, to take it. Although I think when it becomes available to them, they should have the choice to do so. But if not, if they choose not to have the vaccine, then they should have sign a waiver, like you were
Or
saying with the
something.
big, yeah, or something from the league, excluding the league and excluding their team of any future or current liabilities, in a sense, to things that happen to them down the road because of the possibility of them catching it, like you were suggesting the Big Ten was looking into and being cautious of. Uh, all these players, they're gonna take their life. So and everybody is right now, in a sense, in their own hands and their own decisions. So I think it should be left up to them. But I think that the NHL and the Flyers, in a sense, or any other organization, needs to have that clause in there and sign your name to the dotted line, in a sense, to take their responsibility of it off of them, in a sense,
Of the team and of the
of the
league.
team and of the
And of the
league,
league,
if they
yeah.
choose not to take that
I mean, look,
vaccine.
the league has done, and all leagues have done everything humanly possible to make it as safe as humanly possible to play in these arenas and in these places, to the point where they're going to be allowing people back.
Right.
Okay. And as more and more folks get the vaccine, okay, and as more and more folks are exposed to the COVID and then
Build up
come out of it,
antibodies and stuff.
and
Yeah.
then come out of it, they get the COVID, and then they get sick, and then they get better.
Hmm.
They don't die, they're not on a ventilator or anything like that, but they get better. So now you have those folks, which there's a growing number of those folks every day, right?
Hmm.
And then every day more and more people are getting vaccinated. So I think at some point you're going to see more and more people in the stands, and I think that's what it seems like, that's what the league is trying to move towards. not just safety for players, because I really agree with you in what your article says too, as far as that's concerned. And I like the fact that the league is trying to do things more proactively instead of retroactively.
Yeah, I do. I do think that the NHL, in a sense, has taken the best of any leagues, in a sense, professionals, cautious and slow moving and thought processing in this and trying to think it out as best they can. As you saw, how many people were at the Super Bowl in the stands and whatnot. The NHL, large for large portion of the team, has nobody in the stands. So
Yeah, there's only
it,
3 or 4 places now that are
yeah,
allowing fans in the stands for the NHL stadiums.
right.
Yeah. So, and from what I understand, that number is supposed to be going up here closer towards the end of February, as uh, things start to level off, or as numbers start to plateau, or whatever the case is. So,
Right.
all right. Look, we could probably sit here and talk about this one for hours, right?
Probably, yes.
Probably. But I wanted to make this be the number one article. I wanted to make this be the topic of this, because this is very much a hot point topic, but it's also something that's very, very, very important when it comes to the safety of the players and the coaches and all of the people that are in the stands and all the people that are involved in the teams, and then at some point the public. So if you can't keep the teams and all those people safe, how are you going to be able to keep the public safe? Right? That's going to be the perception, I guess, of people. You know what I
Right.
mean? That,
Right.
hey, so I think it's good news that we're seeing reports coming out that teams are starting to come back from their hiatuses, whether they want to or not. You know what I mean? So let me ask you something. You played, right? Did you
Right.
ever have to go through a stoppage, like during a season or anything like that? Did you ever have to go through a period where like you had to stop playing or something like that?
No, not to my knowledge ever. Always, I mean, maybe from personal injury or something like that, but no, never a stoppage in the season.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I never had either. Unless it was because of something that I did or injury or something, you know what I mean? But we never had anything like that. And I can't even imagine what that would be like to just, oh, well, there's no games today.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you do? I mean, you're an athlete. What, now what? You suddenly now have the next 10 days off. What do you do now? Guess you're doing a lot of running, huh?
Something in the
Something.
gym, all the yeah.
All right, here we go. I mean, speaking of running and speaking of staying in shape, we got another great article here. And just like fine wine, the Flyers Scott Laughton only gets better with age, right? And Mr. Writer Extraordinaire, I could not agree with you more about this, as this is a great article posted to FlyersNittyGritty.com just the other day. Man, everybody had a lot of doubts about Scott Laughton, and it's just like you, right on cue. Louts gets his first hattie, and now he's aging like fine wine, right?
Yeah, definitely. I for one have to say that I was a disbeliever in Scott Lawton. Just the time that it took him to develop. Obviously, not all players develop at the same rate of time. Some get it very quickly and step right in, and some take a while. And Lawton took a while. He was a first round pick though, and that's where it was. You expected that delay in time to be ready from a third, fourth, fifth round pick. But for a first round pick, you kind of want them to be able to jump into play and jump on train and be on board with everything quicker
Yeah,
than most.
yeah,
And he did not. He took a little time, but as he progressed in his own play. He's gotten better every single year he's been in the league. Now, I think a big portion of that is his head coach now, Alain Vigneault, uh, in that sense that he already was that 200-foot player that, our head coach now likes so much and expects out of his players.
And
But
covets.
now that he's seen that transition in his game and that versatility, that he even took a chance to move him from center when needed last year when Oscar Lindblom and others went down to play on the wing, which he progressed in as well. And
Excelled,
was able
actually,
to
yeah.
have excelled exactly, was able to produce his most point getting year of any year of his seasons in the league, and just absolutely floored by his play as of late. And he is one of the heart and soul players of this team, the guy that gets them up and gets a big hit or will drop the gloves. That's very rare nowadays in
Oh,
Flyers
yeah.
land.
Oh,
And,
man.
stand up for
We'll
a
get into
player
that
if need
later.
be. So I
We'll get
just,
into that later.
yeah, I'm just thrilled with this guy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I too was a little bit, had a little bit of doubts about Lottie. But I did like this. When he was sent down, he made the best of it. And he didn't whine and he didn't moan and he didn't complain. You know what I mean? And he was the consummate professional, the consummate team player. And you know what he said? Coaches say, I need to come down here and play better. So what did he do? He freaking lit it up, right? When he was down in the AHL, he just exploded, right? In your article, you point out he was over a point per player in the AHL, right? Okay, I think the guy got the message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you topple that with what AV is doing, and you put Scott in that system with what AV's doing, and holy moly.
Yeah.
And you seeing it this year as well, too, with Scott Laughton, the way he's playing. He is playing exactly like the way you said. He's playing like a first rounder right now.
Yes. And his line right now is one of the best, I would say, in the league right now.
Woo!
It's just they're just exciting to watch. I mean, more
Yeah.
so than the first and second line of the Flyers. I don't know how Van Riemsdyk hasn't been moved up in the lineup, but I'm guessing that they just don't want to mess with perfection of this line right now because
If
they
it
are
ain't
just
broke.
clicking and running on all cylinders. So
You know, if it ain't broke, don't break that up, man, for real. Look, that's the thing. I think I don't look at the lines as top line, second line, third line, fourth line. I look at them as like the energy line, right? And then I look at like the scoring lines, and then the checking line, or that's kind of how I look at lines. I don't look at them
but
as
they're playing as all three of those that you just mentioned. I think Voracek and Scott Laughton are two of the best forecheckers this season, and pushing the play and trying to get back the puck when they don't have it. And
exactly.
they are
Like it.
producing the most points out of any line.
I like it. I mean, hey, that's what I mean. I'm in total agreement with you on that. You know what I mean? And I like the fact that even though Scott Laughton was not an instant success, I mean, as you point out, I mean, he had his ups and downs. It was hard. It wasn't like, okay, like even what you said at the very beginning of that, where his expectations, because of being a first round draft pick, you're like, yeah, you should have been developing a little sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it had a lot to do with who the coach was behind the bench during his time of his ups and downs and inconsistencies, because there were three coaches within that time frame,
Mm-hmm.
right? All three with completely different ideas about what his role was going to be on the team.
Right.
Okay. And so that's the thing I think is the key point right there.
It definitely is a key point. I think, like you said, other coaches may have not used him correctly, or may have not saw the value that is Scott Laughton that AV has, and AV is quintessential one of the best coaches in the league in my mind because of the fact that he does not set up his young players to fail. He
Exactly.
rather sets them up to blow up. I mean, to bring in a guy like, Morgan Frost, who they're trying to bring along, and to bring him up and play with Giroux of all people, and stuff is great. Instead of sticking a guy that's just coming up on the fourth line and expecting him
Yeah.
to excel with guys that are, can't even skate in the same rink as the player that they're placing on that line,
Right,
is
right.
is kind of, cavemanish in a
I'm with you.
sense of, where the league used to be, and you better, just excel and step up your game. That's not how today's players are really gonna come up anymore, and they need a little bit more tutoring and confidence build up to be able to get going. And that's what I think AV has done. He uses people how they should be used, even if that's not in the same capacity of what they grew up becoming, say, a center or wing or whatever, as he's shown with, Moran, moving him to wing, and taking that chance and just having an open mind is
Exactly.
doing his players a absolute service for
Well,
sure.
perfect example is that he put Scott Lawton on the wing,
Yes,
right? And he had his most points producing season on the wing.
right,
Okay, who knew? Who would have thunk? Right?
right,
And boy, has he turned out to be a really great penalty killer too.
yes.
Okay, man, I'll tell you what. Uh, I I may not have liked Scott Lawton at the beginning, but I sure am liking him now, and I'm sure I'm glad that he kind of went through those little bit of ups and downs to get to the point where he is right now. You know what I mean?
I'm definitely happy that the Flyers didn't give up on him as did so many fans, myself included. In
Oh
the,
yeah.
I was right on that bandwagon of saying, hey, let's trade him, let's try to get
I
something for
mean,
him.
yeah,
He's not really developing, but this is the type player that it is scary in a sense because he is going to be an unrestricted free agent, and we do have an expansion draft coming up. And,
he's still young.
yes, he's still, well under 30. And that's the scary part to this, guys. We could possibly lose this guy, and he is a cog in this lineup, I think, for sure. And he is a guy that, say, the Kraken may be looking at as a depth forward and a guy to come in and be an automatic top penalty killer and third or fourth line center, whatever, however they build it up there, and take some of these maybe more point producing younger players that they might decide to take in the expansion draft and kind of help them along, and maybe, just maybe, Lawton wants to maybe take on that role or such with another team in free agency as well that needs a little bit more help rather than staying here. Who knows where his mind is? Hopefully, it's with staying in Philly, but I don't know.
I'm with you on that, man. I'm with you on that. I too was also a little bit of, kind of giving up on him a little bit too, because 2012 first round draft pick. Here we are, 2021, and you're just now, this is your second year of your breakout. You know what I mean? A little late on that, there, buddy.
Yeah,
But you know what? That's okay though, because I think AV's had a really great influence on him, and I you have to crush a lot of grapes to get some good wine. Okay. And once you make that wine, you need to nurture it and you need to have patience with it so that it ages well. Right. Just like
right.
Lawton. Right. They crushed a lot of grapes. They had to mold him and they had to make him into the right flyer image. And it just took AV to allow him to nurture him and to let him age a little bit into that position. And now we've got a fine wine in Scott Laughton.
Definitely, definitely.
And I'm also with you on this one too. I really hope that he is signed and or is protected in some way, because you can't sit here and tell me that of some of the players that would be made available, that he wouldn't be on the top 5 of your list to bring this guy into your team to help start your team, especially in Seattle. You know what I mean? So that's what I got to say about that. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a little break here right now, and we're going to allow our sponsors, CCC Resorts, to tell you a little bit about what's going on with them and how you can get in touch with them and how you can take care of all their great and wonderful services. So we'll be right back after this. Greetings. This is Steel Flyers from the Steel Flyers All Sports Network, and we have 2 very special guests. We are delighted to be joined by Tracy Musser and Nicole Howard from the Canine Country Club Resorts. Tracy and Nicole are both managers for CCC Resorts and work at the Windsor or at the club, one of 2 locations, both in Manheim, Pennsylvania. Congratulations on your 30th year anniversary of being in business. Let me start off by saying this. Steel Flyer stands behind this company 100%. Taken care of Steel Flyer's furry friend for the last 2 years now, and they are a one-stop shop for everything your furry friend needs. In fact, let's find out what our friends at CCC Resorts offer. Nicole, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. What are some of the great boarding services that you guys offer, and what do we have to do in order to get our furry friends taken care of when we are unable to travel with them?
Well, we like to bring everybody in for a tour first. That way they can see the behind the scenes, they can see where they stay, they can see where they play, and then we explain all of the fun things that we can add on to their reservation, whether it be one of our packages, either a nature walk, a ball time, or even a cuddle time.
Oh, wow, that sounds great. Boy, it sure sounds like a resort to me. So how are you today, Tracy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Tracy, tell me, is it true that you guys have both an indoor and an outdoor pool at the Windsor location?
It is true. We've got one of each, so we're able to offer year-round swimming. The indoor pool is a great option for dogs who are swimming for therapy or rehab. It's got that sloped entry so they can wade into the water. Our outdoor pool is a little bit larger, and it's 4 foot deep the whole way across. Both of them are saltwater pools, so it's really easy on the dog's skin and coat.
Wow, that's very awesome. So then during the summer months, you have a much deeper pool outside and then a sloped entry shallow pool indoors for the dogs. Tracy, tell the folks how we can get some pool time.
Well, the first thing everyone does is come for an intro swim. We use that time to make sure the dog is comfortable in the water. We make sure they know how to get out of the pool safely, and we go over all the pool rules and etiquette with the clients as well. After that, they're able to schedule private appointments where they have the pool to themselves, or they can invite friends and have a whole group swim going on.
So after a dip in the pool, then it would have to be off to the groomers, right? I mean, our furry friends cannot go out looking their best. Nicole, what are some of the great services your top-notch groomers provide?
Our groomers, they specialize in full service grooms. We can do the basics, whether it be just a bath and a brush out or a blowout. Or for the extra pampered pooches, we can do nail Dremels, we can do deodorizing soaks, and also facials.
Wow, man, that sounds like a resort if you ask me. Tracy, I know one of the main programs here at CCC Resorts is the WAGS program. The Steel Flyers dog is enrolled in this program. So why don't you tell the folks what is involved in this and how they can get enrolled?
Yeah, the WAGS program is our primary daycare option at the Windsor. It's designed to be a structured program for people who are looking for a set routine for their dog. They all come on the same days each week, which allows them to have set friends, and we know exactly what's going on with each group. So we do a little bit more activities, and we build more into their daily routine there. But we've got other daycare options as well for people looking for a little less commitment. We do an hourly care where you can drop them off and just pay by the hour. We also do a day stay option, which is great for the dogs that prefer human friends instead of making friends with other dogs. And then we have a traditional daycare option as well if you're looking for the occasional outing for your dog.
Wow, there you have it. A full service groomer, a daycare program, and an indoor and outdoor pool. What more could you ask for? Sure seems like CCC Resorts has everything covered. Remember, DOG, depend on God.
All right, guys, welcome back. Took a little break, but now we are ready to talk about this next article, huh, Steele?
Yeah, man. How about that? Are you ready?
Sure.
All right, cool. Thanks to CCC Resorts for sponsoring the show and for sponsoring Steel Flyers All Sports Network. So really appreciate that, and look forward to having them take care of your all of your pet needs, and they 2 great swimming pools and all kinds of great stuff there. So appreciate that. That's www.cccresorts.com. All right, my man. A netminder has a chance to see the game in a very different way, right? I mean,
It does.
your blue paint view, you posted another great piece about the Flyers fans, a call to action. And in this piece, you very eloquently state that the Flyers need some beef out
They
there.
do. They do.
Oh, come on. We're both on the same page here when it comes to the physical game. Okay. And we are not seeing much of that on the Flyers this year, are we?
Not at all. Not at all. Scott Laughton is about the only one on the forecheck that'll actually make a hit.
Or drop the
maybe-
gloves for that matter.
Yes. And then on the back end, Robert Hagg is about the only guy that'll put a body on somebody. And that's kind of discerning, guys. When you have a guys on the team like a 6'5" Felipe Myers and a 6'3" Travis Sanheim, who are both 24 years old and fearful of putting a body to somebody is a bit ridiculous. If you watch the Washington Capitals games, you can see a guy like Felipe Myers, a great defenseman as he is, but he was trying to poke check Alex Ovechkin. And Alex Ovechkin just saw it and went right around him and scored a goal and set up another play after that. And this can't happen. The way I was taught to play hockey, guys, a guy like that on an opposing team, well, he can't score if he's on his seat of his pants. And
well, 99.9% of the time they can't.
Right. Well, that Ovechkin may be the rarity to that, where he can score laying on his chest or whatever. He's a phenomenal player, but that's the whole purpose, guys. And the Flyers as a whole lack physicality, and we've been saying this for a long time, guys, but it's still not being addressed.
Nope. It's like we keep beating the same story. We keep racking up the same bill. It's like, Chuck, are you listening? You're obviously not listening, Chuck. What's going on, buddy? Come on. I have a hard time with the team not sticking up for their players.
Yes.
And when you see other guys make runs at other players on other teams, like if somebody runs at Sidney Crosby, there's 3 or 4 people look at in your face, right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just using that as an example.
No, definitely. Okay. I think that is a big point that I put out in the article as well. Not just I want to see checking, but I want to see somebody that'll stand up for star players in this sense. I was at a game, where Nolan Patrick got boarded in the head first in the boards by the Islanders recently. Yep. And I heard the echoing throughout the empty stadium while I was there covering the game. And everybody there just stopped in shock that, man, what the heck? Is this guy going to be able to get up from that? And he just slowly got back to his skates and was holding his head back. Why, of all people, he was out for over a season with concussion-like symptoms, guys. Why are they allowing that to happen? I don't know. And another thing, Oscar Lindblom, back-to-back games. He took one off the head. He took a extremely late hit another time in another game, and nobody came to his aid. Nobody. Yeah. Everybody just looked at the person that did it. And that just can't happen, guys. The Flyers do have a guy in Sam Moran that can do that. But for the most part, I don't think that they trust him on an everyday level to be playing wing yet. He's still learning that aspects of that wing position, and that's not going to come overnight. And for that same purpose, I don't think he's there on an every night basis over top anybody else that's already on the Flyers defensive core as well. So what's the answer to that, guys? I kind of think that they need to go out and trade for somebody because nobody's there in the system ready yet to take on that role that
Nope.
Wayne Simmons or a Scott Hartnell had here,
Which you
or
point out.
that I pointed out in the article. I think they need some physicality on the back end more, and a guy I presented to that would be Yanni Hakanpää of the Anaheim Ducks. Okay, he's a Finn, big, strong kid, 28 years old, 6'5", 218 pounds. He's very, very physical in his game.
Perfect size.
Yes.
How do you say that last name?
Hakanpää.
Okay, Hakanpää. All right.
Hakanpää.
All right.
It's a bit different, and a lot of people haven't heard of this guy. Why? Because Anaheim is filled with depth at defense, and he's only gotten a chance to play this season because of injuries to guys in their defensive core.
Yeah.
And this guy has shined in this time coming up. He's played quite a few years in the AHL, and he's been successful there. He will stand up for his teammates. He will be the first one to lay a body on somebody when given the chance. I think he had, at the point I wrote this article, he had 40 checks, ranking him 8th overall in the entire NHL in that aspect. And he had another great defensive capabilities in blocking shots. I think he was 2nd overall in the whole NHL in that aspect at the time I wrote the article.
Jeez, man, what?
Yeah, I think that's I think the best block shot person on our team was, of course, Provorov, and he had 15 at the point I wrote that article, so he had twice as many.
Oh my gosh!
But the physicality aspect is lacking, and this is something that this guy could bring. Why might Anaheim want to get rid of him or be willing to, in a sense, is because all those players that were injured, I think they had 3 Ducks defensemen injured at the time I wrote this article, is that they're slowly becoming healthy again. And they're going to replace Yanni, in a sense, back in the lineup and force him back down to the AHL. Or maybe down to a lesser third pairing role at best. So the Flyers could go out and essentially trade for this kind of guy. And he has an expiring contract, so it wouldn't be, in a sense, blocking any of our future stars coming up. And it is that it is relatively inexpensive. I think he makes $700,000 or $800,000 a year currently.
Definitely doable money there.
And we could trade draft picks and bring him on for it was $750,000, I think. We could trade draft picks for that if they are so willing, and still acquire that.
Let me ask you a question, okay? Mm-hmm. And this is something that kind of has been bothering me. Look, we've done nothing but praise Ron Hextall and his draft.
Yes.
And we've done nothing but praise the type of players that Ron Hextall's brought in here with the skill and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But then when you really look at it, and you really look deep down at it, and this is kind of something that is a little bit surprising, and this is why I want to ask this question. Ron Hextall was the type of player where he didn't take any guff.
Not at all.
Not at all. In fact, he skated out of his net to do bad juju, right? Come on, we all seen it, right?
Definitely, he was my favorite goaltender of all time. So
tell me about it, right? I mean, come on. We all seen him slash, we all seen him drop the gloves, and we all seen him score the goal. Okay, and Ron Hextall was the consummate goalie where you didn't cross over his crease because he had something to say about it, and if he did have something to say about it, he'd drop the gloves and punch you in the face too.
Right. We didn't need a player like Yanni on the team that is a porch clearing guy as well, because Ron Hextall would clear his own porch. And he didn't need anybody to do that for him. He didn't need anybody to stand up for him, or
just like you,
just like me in a sense. But we don't have that. Hart isn't that type player. And on any given night, you can see these guys Sanheim and Myers and others, as big as they are, not willing to push guys out of in front of the net.
Okay, so this is
Sometimes they're beside them. Sometimes they're even in front of the guy
yeah.
that's standing in front. And that is just mind blowing in this goaltender's mind, because Hart is left there to just bob and weave and look around these offensemen in front of him. And somehow he's still, majority of the time, blocking the shots. But sometimes he's not. I mean, guys, a goaltender is only able to stop what shots he can see. And he's not able to see a whole lot of shots. And I think the league as a whole is figuring this out as far as the Flyers go, that send somebody in front of that net, they're not going to clear them out. And this is so surprising, like you're saying, with Hextall drafting these players. Yes, they have great talent, but where's the physicality?
See, now you're getting to where I'm now. See, now you're getting down to my dirt now, right?
Right.
Okay.
Where's the physicality in these players? And I think the answer to that question is majority of the players nowadays aren't willing to get down and dirty, in a sense. And if they do, they aren't being brought up from maybe they make the AHL ranks, but they stay there longer now than they would before. And maybe they don't get drafted at all because the roles of these players are, they want offensemen to score 20 goals a game or 20 goals a season, and they want defensemen to do the same. They're not looking at the players that the same that they were years ago.
Except that if you look at the last two cup-winning teams, what were they?
Physical.
What did they do? Hit you.
Yes.
What did they do? Knock you off the puck. Both of the last two Stanley Cup winning teams did that and won the cup. How much more hint do you need? This is why I wanted to talk to you about this, because in spite of how we love what Ron Hextall has done with the draft, in spite of how he has brought some serious talent into the Flyers organization, not just into the lineup currently, but in the farm teams, all the minor leagues and the AHL, the whole 9 yards, and did a great job. Problem is this. If you continually draft 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", 5'11" guys that have all this great skill and speed, and nobody's there to hit or stick up for or is capable of doing anything physical, because let's face it, hockey is 90% physical, 10% mental. I mean, it's a joke. Okay, it really isn't. But you get what I'm saying. Hockey players are some of the most in shape people I've ever seen in my entire life. A fact of what they do every single day. Come on. And the fact you put a 6'5", 230-pound guy out there, along with a 5'8" guy and a 6'1" guy. Right? The 6'1" guy smashes up on the 5'8" guy. Then you have the 6'7" guy come over to that 6'1" guy and go, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" We don't have that. Where is that? You can't be an intimidating type of a team if you have a team full of Danny Briere skating around. I'm not saying that the Flyers don't have big guys. We do. Hag and Sanheim and Myers, and we do have some big guys. But they are not banging bodies. They are not finishing checks. They are not rattling the boards. They're not knocking guys off the puck by hitting them. And we've seen that that's what wins cups. Tampa Bay did it. Tampa Bay specifically went out and got some of that physicality so they could win the cup. Why aren't we doing the same? Why can't we get this Hawk and Pa? Right? Who else you got on the list? I know you got somebody else.
There's definitely more people to come on that list. I'm gonna keep writing articles like this until we solve the problem here. I don't know why we're not going out and handling this. It would be as easy as signing a free agent. I think one player could even make the team as a whole change their they're thinking in this, and it does in other teams. If a guy that goes out there as an energy guy, as a grinder, as a guy that hits players, it pumps up the team sometimes to be able to get them to play a little more aggressive, and most of the time result in a win because they are on top of their skates. They're going, they're looking for a hit, they're finishing the play rather than half skating the play and just stop.
Yep.
And oh, okay, or poke check instead of finishing a check and getting that puck
And
back,
then
or
watching
dumping
the
and
puck
chasing
go up the
and not go after it, and not trying to retrieve it is mind-boggling in a sense. And I think an addition of a simple free agent or trade acquisition would solve this whole problem and be that Tampa Bay style jump that we need. We
I
have the
agree.
talent offensively. We score
Yeah.
goals on a nightly basis,
Yeah.
but
And we
there's
have
not that.
goaltending.
And then we have goaltending. We had good defense, but we don't have the physicality. We don't have the protectors. We don't have the people to move the puck, the offenseman out from in front of the net. That's needed. It's needed, and it's proven, like you're saying, in the playoff setting. When you're playing a team back to back to back to back to back in a 7-game series, things get physical, and players are showing the Flyers less and less respect in this sense, and more physicality, knowing that they are not going to respond to it,
Yeah.
and they don't.
And it's like you say, the other way. That resonates throughout the league where they just keep saying, well, the game plan against the Flyers is just put bodies in front of the net and take shots at point blank range because nobody's going to be there to clear you out.
Right.
And that's how teams are winning, and that's how teams are beating us. The same thing would be said if we brought in somebody that, look, we're not looking for knuckle draggers here.
No.
Okay? That's not what this is. Okay? We're not looking for the goon squad. This isn't Broad Street Bullies again. Okay? We're not looking for some guy out there that's got one arm, and the other arm's made out of metal or something stupid. That's not what this is about. But when you have consistently opposition running into our guys, hitting our guys, standing in front of the net, the porch isn't being cleared, guys are not being stood up for, things of that nature, all the things that goes into playing hockey. Okay. And I understand that they're trying to get rid of the physicality of the game as far as, man, every time players get together, man, you see 3 refs are all suddenly swimming around. Oh, don't punch each other. And I'm going to here to tell you, in the last week, I've seen more fights in the NHL in the last week than I have in the whole first month of the season. Because you know why? Exactly with what you're saying. Their teams are now playing each other 4, 5, 6, 7 times now, and familiarity breeds contempt, right? And these players are not afraid to let everybody else know what's going on. And we just don't have that on Philadelphia, and I'm afraid.
Yeah, somebody is going to get seriously hurt. I do believe that. I don't want it to happen, but I do believe that it's coming because, the East alone has some pretty nasty guys lining up across from them. And, the Tom Wilsons of the world are going to just feast on this lack of physicality and dominate in a sense if we don't do anything about it.
Exactly. But I like that we keep coming back to this because it hasn't been addressed.
No.
And so we have to keep addressing this. We have to keep coming back to this and saying, hey, why isn't this being addressed? You know what I mean? No matter what, we need some physicality on this team, and we need more guys hitting and taking some action. I'm not advocating that we become headhunters or anything like that, but come on, guys. And we need guys sticking up for themselves. I mean, if if you take a hit and you're able to get up and start swinging and at least being able to get into the face of somebody that hits you, I, I, you know, I never played hockey. I only played football. And in football, there's no such thing as fighting or anything like that. You know how you take care of things on the football field? You own them, right? You bury them. You make them feel pain, right? And the only way you make them feel pain is you beat them down, right? You outblock them, you outrun them, you outscore them, you whatever. That's how you do it. You know what I mean? So I can't exactly drop the gloves on the football field to take care of the guy next to me. You know what I mean?
Right. But in the same token, that same sense of play is one that is supposed to be there in hockey. If
Yeah.
you got a guy like Sidney Crosby or Alex Ovechkin, or name any star player from any team,
Yeah.
the object is to wear them down throughout the game. You should be placing a body on them. If you watch the games against the Capitals recently, how does Sidney Crosby get open so much? How is somebody not initially put out on the ice and saying, stick to him? I don't care what goes on all over here. Stick to this man and
Don't let
watch
him out
him.
of your sight.
And
Right.
watch him. Don't let him out. Anytime he puts his stick to puck, you put him on his rear end. And that is how you wear these guys down. They are not so inclined to stand in front of the net. They are not so inclined to go into the boards to retrieve a puck when you do this.
Exactly.
I mean, it's pretty simple, but I don't see how the Flyers, in a sense, have gotten away from this, and I don't see how a coach like AV that holds his players accountable for so much, with benchings and setting them out as healthy scratches when they don't carry out the play, is not getting on them for not finishing checks and plays of this sort.
That's a great question, man. I'm glad you asked that question, because as much as we laud Coach AV for his style of play and the fact that he's making players responsible for the 200-foot game and all the other stuff, in the same breath, he's not telling players or coaching players to be like, hey, you need to stick up for yourself. This is part of what's hockey. This is part of how you're supposed to coach. You're supposed to be a team, and you're supposed to be a band of brothers, and you don't let other players run into your other guys and hurt them and take them out of the game so they're not part of the game anymore.
Right.
Why are you letting that happen? What's going on here? Why can't you take a guy and put a body on somebody and clear him out of the porch? Why can't you skate him into and finish the check? Well, I don't get it. I mean, checking and all that stuff, isn't that all part of hockey? Isn't that all part of what the game is? Isn't that all part of why we watch this? I mean,
Right.
How many times have you seen a player stand at the blue line, right, as a defenseman, turn around and take out the winger skating down, right?
Right.
We want to see that, because guess what? That winger isn't going to be part of that play because he's still back there behind the blue line picking himself up.
Right.
Right?
Right. And I think Chuck Fletcher has finally addressed this. With wisdom being selected, he is this style of player. He is rather diminutive in size, but he skates like an absolute bulldog. He skates and
heart.
plays with that heart that you're suggesting there. That so many of these Flyers don't really show on any given night. They have the talent, all the talent in the world, but they don't skate and play with heart. And
Thank you.
I would like to commend, Wisdom, how he's already making progress in the AHL, and I think he annihilated somebody the other night,
big hit.
and just big hits and board battles and hard play, and then it rewards itself by setting players up for nice goals. I mean, he doesn't take a shift off, and this is the type player that should make fast track to the Flyers sooner rather than later because of that style play. It is needed.
Exactly. And he's one of the only few players that has been drafted of recent that does have that style, that does have that kind of tenacity. You know what I mean? I think Cam York is a little bit like that. He seems to have that little bit of fire in his belly.
He's getting there. He's a leader for sure.
Yeah.
He's a definite leader, and he's becoming more physical now than he was because he's added size.
Yeah. I
And
watched him the other night. I
and
watched
he's
him the other night
becoming more
against
comfortable
Michigan.
with that side of his
Against the
game. Yeah.
I watched the Michigan Wisconsin game
Mm.
the other night, and boy, he looked really good, really physical, finishing his checks. You know what I mean? And he seems like he's becoming that kind of player as well, too. You know what I
Leaps
mean?
and bounds of where he was in that aspect of his game previously, for
Exactly.
sure.
Because I don't think anybody else in the defensive depth has that kind of fire or has that kind of, finish check kind of thing, or you know what I mean? I just don't think there's that guy. I mean, we have that skill, but a skill as a defenseman takes time to develop. Skill to be a good checker and a good hitter is something you learn from the very beginning. So that should already be part of your game.
Pee Wee hockey.
Does that make sense?
For
right?
sure.
Okay, so you learn that from Pee Wee hockey on, right? So hitting and checking should be already part of your repertoire. All the skill will come if you got it. That'll come. So that's why I'm saying about this. As far as defenseman with skill is great, but I want a defenseman that is 6'5", 230 pounds, maybe has a little less skill, but has more of that fire, more of that heart, more of that, gonna come after you kind of thing. That I'd much rather have that and take a little less skill on the defensive end. Look, I don't need my defenseman scoring 60 points a game or 60 points a year. That's great, and I'd love it, but I don't need it. I need my wingers and my centers to be doing that, right?
Right.
This whole shift of defensemen being these big offensive weapons has taken a lot away from what we're from what is winning games and what is winning championships. You know what I mean? Where you got all these great guys that have all this skill and everything, but you can't score when you're on your butt. So what do you think, my man? Do you think we got a good one in the books?
I think so. I think we hit a lot of good topics that are current and problems right now, for sure. I got a good resolution coming in a article that I'm working on now.
I figured.
In the form of a draft prospect. I'm looking into the draft again.
Yeah, man.
I don't know when actually it'll be the draft. There's a lot of up in the air about that as well. And the NHL organization is trying to figure that out right now.
Yep.
But I am starting to take a look at that. It needs to be done. You can't be caught by surprise if and when they decide to do the draft when it's originally intended. So should be a good piece for that, and a good piece for the Flyers organization that I have to set up there that covers all these points as well that is lacking. So
awesome sauce, man. Look, I love the articles, love the stuff. This is why we have this show, so that we can get these out here, so we can discuss these articles just like we just did today. And this is what makes it all fun and makes it all great. I'd like to thank our new sponsors, www.cccresorts. Thank you.com. Thank you for sponsoring the Steel Flyers All Sports Network and for sponsoring Hockey Writers Inc. Lance is your host. You can follow him on Twitter at
LNGBASSIST, the numbers 39.
And I'm your co-host, Steel Flyers. You can follow me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. You can catch all of us at www.steelflyers.com/links/Hockey Writers Inc. You can check us out on Spreaker at Hockey Writers Inc. there. We were all out on all the podcasting platforms. We're out on Amazon, Google, iHeartRadio. You name it, we're there. You can find us. This one will be coming out here real shortly. And thanks for joining us, Lance. Appreciate you hopping on here and getting everybody caught up, right?
No problem. No problem.
You got it, my man. All right, guys. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you all next time.